Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Magic Hour. I'm your host, Magic and Dairy, aka MagicLeb. Be sure to follow me on my Instagram at Fame Film Agency and hit that subscribe button on my YouTube at Magic and Dairy. Today, we have a very, very special guest. Her first time here in Adelaide, and she claims she can turn you into an Italian in 55 minutes. Knowing me, she's going to turn me into a mafia boss in the next 15. Please welcome Miss Stefania Licari.
Hi, ciao.
Stefania, ciao bella.
Ciao, bello.
Yeah. Welcome to Adelaide.
Thank you.
How are you enjoying it here so far?
I am loving it.
Yeah?
I'm loving everything. Is just gorgeous.
Have you found any paisans here in Adelaide so far?
Well, I had quite a few Italians coming to the show.
Nice.
So I believe expats are less the tourists. But they're great. They've been great audience members. But the Australians, I'm loving them. Everybody friendly, extremely chilled.
Well, you are in Adelaide. Adelaide is very they're down to earth more than other states. You know,
okay.
because Adelaide, because it's so small, it's like a nice big community. You know, here in the state. But I'm sure you'll feel the same kind of hospitable ways in other states. But here, it's like everybody knows each other. You know, in Sydney and Melbourne, it's a very, very big state. So, you know, it'll be a different experience, but still a lovely one, just a different one. But here is like the smallest town in Italy.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
the smallest town, the smallest village is not the same as the big villages. You know what I mean? They have something special that others don't. And Adelaide is like that. It has something special that the other states do not have.
Oh, you made me homesick now. Although I do come from a big city, but I know.
Where in Italy are you from?
I'm from Milan.
Milan, nice. I used to
Thank you.
enjoy watching Milan play football. AC Milan.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
For the football fans.
Now, tell me about how you can make people Italian in 55 minutes. Tell us about your show here.
Oh, so yes, I can. It's a guarantee. It's a promise.
Yeah.
So if you come to the show, if you're Italian, I will remind you all the things about being Italians, the great qualities. And if you're not Italian, but you're interested in be Italian and be more, let's say, closer to the Italianity, then yeah, please come along because I'm gonna touch basically a few, few things and. Of a routine life, like eating, walking, sounding like an Italian, loving like an Italian. So I can make you a better lover. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Oh, wow.
Much sexier.
Okay. Well, who does not want that? Well, I'm going to attempt to make you a little bit Lebanese. All right. So, because I have for you some Lebanese pastry called baklava.
Thank you. I love them, actually.
Name for you. All right, so hopefully you'll leave here with a touch of Lebanese in you. So you will be an Italianese.
Okay, so tonight's show is going to be 50 minutes Italian and then 5 minutes. Now I can make you Lebanese too.
Now, this is very interesting. You are obviously an Italian-born. You're an actress and a writer and a former NHS intensive care doctor.
Indeed.
Wow. You were based in the UK. And you're now combining your medical experience, migration stories, cultural identity, and high-energy physical comedy into your performance.
Yes, indeed. Oh my God, sounds tiring already.
You know what's amazing?
Oh my God.
It's very rare, but this is the second case that I know of where somebody who became a doctor first turned to comedy later. Now, was the money not good enough for a doctor? Is that why you became a comedian?
No.
To make less money?
Quite the opposite. Well, I mean, okay. Having said that, I don't think doctors are paid enough in the UK anyway.
In the UK,
no,
okay.
They're not. But, I mean, money has never been the goal of my life in anything. I mean, by all means, let me get famous with the podcast.
Yeah, well, no.
I welcome the money.
I'm certainly not doing this for the money. But
I know.
Yeah,
I thought that was the reason why I'm here. No.
No. Sorry, there is no money.
Oh, I meant anyway. So yeah, money has never been the target in my life, in my life choices. So the true story is, I wanted to be an actress when I was a kid, and for a few years. When I was really, really young, I was just 5, and I would memorize. For example, when I was still not able to read, I would memorize my favorite fairy tale because my mom would read them every night to me. And I would go to the nursery with the book and I would pretend I was able to read. So I believe those were my first scripts. And for years, when I was a child, I used to say, I want to be an actress. And there was no particular reason because there's nobody from the entertainment industry in my family. So there was no any influence from my background. I mean, most of the people in my family are like architects. So there's nothing. So it was very bizarre, but I have a really vivid memories. And then life took a different path somehow. And when I had to make a decision what college to go to, I went to medical school. It was a kind of backup plan. For whatever reason
Medical
happened.
school was your backup plan.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
And then I became a doctor in Italy. And then I moved to UK and I did my specialty in intensive care and anesthetics. And then I worked as a doctor in UK for several years until 10 years ago. I don't know if it was like some kind of crisis or whatever happened. I had this like going back to my initial childhood dream. And I quit everything and I went into drama school. I did drama school in England, in London for 2 years. And then I went to Paris to study comedy clown at the École Philippe Collier.
Nice.
So since then, I've been working as an actress and a comic. And let's say on the side, I'm still a doctor because I'm keeping my license and I actually really enjoy it. So for me, it's like a happy divorce with medicine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no kids involved. We're happy, but sometimes I still fancy you a little bit,
Okay.
you know?
So if ever somebody's in your show and they laugh so hard they have a heart attack, you can help them.
Perfect.
You can make them laugh and then save his life.
Yes, I can. And that would be really worth it, the money.
Not many comedians can do that.
No, absolutely. So please come to the show and please do have a heart attack.
Yes,
I'm going to show you.
You get a free checkup when you go to see
Bringing bad luck.
Stefania.
Please don't die in my show. I'm busy.
Now, you had a comedy show called Medico.
Yes.
Medico meaning doctor.
Yes, that was my first solo show.
Yeah. All right, so where you talked about immigration,
Yes.
racism and sexism in healthcare, and becoming British. That sounds like a very fun show.
Yeah, thank you.
You haven't performed that here in Adelaide, obviously.
No,
Here
that was my first solo show back to 4 years ago now, and I took it to the Edinburgh Fringe. It was my debut solo show, my debut Edinburgh Fringe. I went very well. I was very excited. So yes, it started as a character comedy, and then Medico 2 became more like stand-up. Yes, I told stories about what behind the scenes of the healthcare system, what happens when you're a woman and when you're a migrant. So I have experience, unfortunately, quite, I would say a lot, but I would say a lot of sexism and racism over the years. I mean, I believe it's in any field. So it's not just, that's the medical field. Maybe you would find it a little bit more surprising in the medical field because if you're a patient of mine, I'm saving your life, and then you're racist to me, and I'm like, not exactly working very well together.
I don't want my life saved by an Italian. Something like that. Okay,
Thank you for saving me, doctor, but you bloody foreigner. Like, what?
Well, I guess that's sometimes the case, isn't it? I remember there was a TV show called The Jeffersons. It's a funny show back in the 70s. And it was very racially oriented between, blacks and whites and so forth. And there was a very racist white person who was always racist to this black person, but the racist white person has a heart attack, and the black person saves him from the heart attack. And when he saved the racist person, he was so angry that he got saved by a black man. Even when he saved his life, he was still angry that he was saved by a black person.
And it's incredible. It actually happened to me. There's a true story. Then I told them this show Medico, and there was this lady who was clearly, openly quite racist and making comments. You have to also understand that the NHS in UK is beautifully multicultural. So there are healthcare professionals from any part of the world, and I think that's the beauty of it. So she was already openly racist. And she had asked for a British doctor. I mean, bureaucratically, I am British because I got a double passport, but obviously, like culturally. So I was like, okay, so I'm not allowed to see this my own patient, but I was the only doctor around, so not she had
She had
any
no
other
choice.
choice.
Yeah.
And then she actually had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And then she went back to life after that because she had a cardiac arrest. And well, it's incredible because a few days later, when she was better, and I went to speak to her, and I thought, well, maybe this is kind of time of redemption because she had been abusive to the staff for like her stay, and actually she complained for having a Filipino nurse.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there are so many types of levels of racism. It's crazy. It's insane. You know, like instead of being grateful, I'm alive and I should be getting the most out of life, I'm going to continue being a racist bigot. You know, she had the chance to live her life differently or to see things differently, but she chose to continue on the way she was.
Yeah.
Which is very sad.
Fortunately, I wouldn't say this is the majority. Not at all.
No, of course
I think
not.
it's the minority. And I think on overall, I mean, I absolutely adore England. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. I do find extremely welcoming, especially cities like London. So I think this is the minority. I just think for me, it's important to point it out because, first of all, it makes a good story in a comedy show.
And the good thing about racism, it's everywhere. So
Right.
your show will
personal.
succeed everywhere. You
It's
know?
true.
So yeah. Racism is a good thing sometimes, and I will tell you why. Growing up in Australia, when we were kids in the 80s, I said this story before, but I'm going to talk about it again. There were a lot of kidnappings of children in the 80s here in Adelaide when I was growing up, and teachers and the principals said to us, "Make sure you walk with groups. Don't walk by yourself." Because, you know, we care about you, that kind of stuff. My brother and I went home screaming to our mother, "Mum, there's a man kidnapping children from our school. We don't want to go to school." And my mother looked at us both and she said, "They're not going to kidnap you."
Oh.
And I was like,
Sorry.
no. All right? No, that's what she said. And she goes, "But Mum, how can you be so sure?" She looks at us again. "It's not going to happen." And goes, "But Mum, they're kidnapping kids from school. They're going to take me away from you." And goes, "They're not going to take nobody. Trust me." And I didn't realize till when I got older that what my mum meant. My mum meant Australians at that time were so racist that the kidnappers were so racist that they will only kidnap other white children. So we were safe because of the color of our skin. So this is when racism's like, I'm so thankful God for racism because I got to stay home and never got kidnapped like those other white children. So my mother knew from the very beginning, like, you know, what we couldn't understand. And as we got older, all right, there were stories about serial killers. We weren't scared because serial killers also kill predominantly white, and they tend to kill other white people. We're like, yeah, we're cool. You know, we don't have to worry. See, in Lebanon, it doesn't matter what color of the skin is. If there's an airstrike, it doesn't matter what color you are. You're all going to die. You know, it doesn't matter. You're all the target. So that was an easy transition. It was simpler, and it was like, oh, alhamdulillah, okay, no problem. So we grew up never being afraid because of how this place was at that time.
A protected category.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I can see.
Racism saved
like,
me and my brother's life.
Yeah, that sounds like a manifesto. Yeah, hurrah to racism.
So I will be the spokesperson for racism. Racism number one.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
I don't know the way the podcast is going.
No. I will never. But the thing is, if I got saved, if my life was saved by somebody, Asian, Italian, whatever, I'm not going to be like, you. No. No, I'll be like, thank you, God, you're here. You know, you were supposed to be here to save me, and I'm happy. You know.
But you see, and I think the other thing why I like pointed out these stories, put these stories in my shows, is because the other thing with racism is, what I noticed is, when it comes to be racist towards Europeans, the racism tends to be a little bit more subtle, and is sometimes it's so integrated in the way people speak or related to the culture in question that for me it's just like we need to have a shift in the culture. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes I had comments from people, even my own medical colleagues. So we're talking about people like highly educated, and they really, you could see they didn't mean anything bad at all. So I used to be called, for example, especially the first few years in England, I used to be called Dr. Pizza.
Dr. Pizza?
Yes. Now, I know they meant in a kind of affectionate way, and they would come to me like, oh, Dr. Pizza, moving the hands of Dr. Pizza. The thing is, you would never go to an Indian doctor and say, oh, Dr. Papadoom.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because you would think, oh, that's so racist. But somehow, when you do with Italians, and it's all cool and funny because we love Italians. So I think these are things that are very, very important to point it out, because in reality, that is culturally inappropriate as well. And we get very often as Europeans, because people think, oh, yeah, I just want to make a joke because I love Italy. But then, actually, that is a bit insensitive. And it happens also the same about being a woman as a doctor. Still, unfortunately, very often, there's a kind of discrimination. And again, it's kind of subtle.
Even in the medical field?
Oh, totally. I mean, even just the fact that very often I just get called girl or lady, while my counterpart male colleagues, they're always doctor.
So they call the men doctors and they call female doctors anything else but doctor.
Yes, lady or girl.
Why do you suppose that is?
Oh, it's just a sense of like, well, you're a woman, so in a way, automatically some of the boundaries are broken because you're a woman. So you're gonna be warm and approachable, and nobody gonna, you're not gonna be harsh back to me. But also, the other thing is I very often still get comments about my look, and I know they meant to be compliments, and I appreciate it. That's the other thing in the cultural shift. Like you, even as a colleague or as a patient, if you say something like, "Oh, what a pretty doctor," I know you don't mean badly. You don't go to my male colleague and say, "Oh, what a pretty man." You don't say that, but you say that.
I'm sure
to
there
me.
are many women that see male doctors and say
But
that's
they
a
don't.
handsome
No,
man.
they don't. I mean, it could happen. Obviously, this is not like, oh, it's always like this. But it doesn't. It doesn't.
But many women are always looking for men doctors to be their future husbands. You know?
Yeah, I do not recommend you find a husband in medical field.
But like you see so many shows, like when mothers are looking for husbands for their daughters. He's a doctor. I found you a doctor. It's like finding a god, for their women.
Oh dear. Yeah, no. I do appreciate that. But you see what I'm trying to say? It's like I'm there in a professional capacity, and the first thing you say when you see me, you make a comment on my look, and it's like. You recognize me you just recognize me again. It's like, oh, I see the woman, so I see the body, I see the look, and then I see the doctor. And that doesn't happen with a man. It just does not happen.
Okay, maybe so, but there are many women whose one of their well, I don't know if it's still happening today, but a lot of women would like to find a man whose profession is in the medical field.
Oh yeah. But I think they're two different things. And I do think doctors make good husband in terms of they hardworking, I suppose, reasonably loyal. But yeah, terrible hours. The sense of humor is particular among doctors.
Yeah, okay. It's just that because whenever I meet women who are dating a doctor or that are married to a doctor, the first thing they say is, "My husband's a doctor." Oh, you got to meet my boyfriend. He's a doctor.
Proud.
You know what I mean? He's a doctor. That's the first thing they say before they tell us his name, all right, or before they tell us how happy they are in a relationship. They just say he's a doctor. The first thing that comes out of their mouth, oh, he's a doctor. My husband's a doctor, or I'm dating a doctor, or I'm dating somebody in the medical field who's going to be a doctor in 2 years, or whatever, something like that. They're just so more obsessed. It's like they're more in love with his profession than they are in love with the man himself.
Yeah. I mean, I do appreciate that. I think there still is some kind of status in a way of it comes from, like, obviously you study so many years to become.
God, yeah.
So that's a nice prejudice also, that you must be reasonably clever if you manage to become a doctor, and I think it's true. Yes, I'm very intelligent. I'm not just a pretty face, basically. What I'm saying.
No. I mean, I've always had some. I'm very blessed that I had some intelligent conversations in this podcast,
Except
but I
this
haven't.
one.
No. But I haven't spoken to an intellectual. Not saying that my past guests were not intellectuals, but you were in a big medical field, filled with intellects. Because not everybody can be a doctor.
And it's such it's interesting actually, because people often ask me how difficult it was to switch from the scientific world to the artistic world. And in a way, yes, they are very different. Maybe, let's say superficially, but deep down, I think there's a lot of parallelisms because if you think about this, medicine ultimately is about human stories.
Human stories.
Stories and human beings.
Yeah.
And having an impact on their lives. And art is about, again, human stories and human beings and having an impact on society and what people think about stuff and how they feel about stuff. So sometimes I don't think the two worlds are that separate at the end of the day. The tools of expressions are separate, different, obviously, and in the medical world, that's like there are more rules in a way. You're more contained. Although I do, when I work, 'cause I still work as a doctor now again, I do use humor a lot.
Of course.
And
it is the best medicine.
I agree. And it's phenomenal because I seen like really huge changes in my practice as a doctor since I became an actor and a comic. Because the thing with the humor, which is beautiful, is it creates this like shared experience. If the person is laughing at your jokes, there is a moment of bonding. And the moment there is a bonding, then patients will see you as a human being and they will be less intimidated by you, but also by the circumstances. And bear in mind, when I work as a doctor, I work in intensive care. So there's like really high stakes type of department when people are really unwell. If they are conscious, like you can actually talk to them because most of the times they're unconscious. And I found the humor is a wonderful tool that I use when I practice because it really absolutely helps patients to feel, let's say, slightly better about the situations and trust you more to make a big decision about choices and their treatments.
I can totally picture you if you had a patient who was depressed, that you'll get your prescription book and say, I'm going to prescribe you 2 Jim Carrey movies.
And come to my show.
and that will cure you. I don't want to be personal. I just want to ask you this question. Are you married or have a man in your life?
How? That sounds interesting. Why would you ask that
No,
question?
no. Because I want to know if you do have a person in your life, does he go around saying, I want you to meet my girlfriend, she is a doctor? Or does he go around, I want you to meet my girlfriend, she is a comedian?
Huh.
I just want to know what the man's point of view is when the roles are reversed, because when the woman's with the man who's a doctor, they're gonna brag about him being a doctor. I just want to know how a man brags about a woman that he's dating if she is also in the medical field.
Huh. Well, okay. I very, very exceptionally gonna answer this question because generally when I get interviewed and they ask me these questions, I say I don't answer because this is not a question usually men get asked.
No,
but I can see the point and I like that.
Thank you.
And I say I am happily single, so I can't comment for what's happening right now.
Okay.
But yes, I think people used to brag. I mean, my ex-boyfriends used to brag. But lately, they used to brag more about me being an actress and a comic. And I've been blessed with being like in the press in UK, like BBC and Guardian. So they were like, oh, she's there. So yeah, I think sometimes I experience some bragging. And I think the doctor card is really good for like the mother and the father-in-law potentially.
They're the ones that are looking for doctors for their children.
So on the paper, I'm like amazing, and then they meet me in person. Like I was expecting a doctor. Yeah. Now why she's so insane and la la la, and then she does comedy and all this. So sometimes it's like, what happened?
You know what? I think all doctors should take a page from your book. They should all learn the art of humor. And at least they can always apply it in their profession because, I mean, seeing a doctor sometimes can be a scary thing. Depending on what condition, why you're going there. And to have somebody just alleviate the tension, I think this is the best way to do it.
Absolutely. Having said that, sometimes I wonder, because I thought about this before, and I thought, is it good that I promote among colleagues in medicine like, oh, everybody needs to use a little bit more humor. Because I think there's also a really fine balance, a fine line between making a joke and making an inappropriate joke. I mean, we're talking about patients that are really unwell and patients that, so maybe, I don't know. I like to think because I do comedy as a job professionally, so I do have that sensitivity. So I'm always extremely respectful, extremely sensitive. And sometimes it's really not the moment to make a joke. So it's really carefully picked.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether like we can just say, oh, everybody should make jokes, because then
No,
it
no.
could be. But what actually would be so good if doctors could learn from the acting world is a little bit more empathy.
Yes.
Because I find, I don't know what's your experience with doctors, but do you find like very often I feel, because especially like in the NHS in England, I mean, bless them, everybody's just so busy. And very often consultations are like a minute, but also not even eyes contact, not a moment.
It's very impersonal.
Very impersonal. And I think it just like, that's a big failure in the relationship with other human beings. And I think patients feel dreadful when they feel like they're not even seen. And sometimes patients, they just want to be heard.
Yes, of course. I mean, many things can explain this, of why this behavior has occurred. You know, you've got the insurance companies that get attached to the medical field, like they've restrained doctors from being doctors. You
Right.
know, like you're not allowed to treat this unless you know they have insurance for this or this or this or this. So they turned it into a business. So and that kind of way had a huge impact in the empathy that you were talking about. That it's no longer as strong as it used to be. We used to have doctors that would come to the home, made house visits if you
Oh,
couldn't
how
go.
gorgeous
You
to
know what I
know
mean? There
that.
was once upon a
Yeah.
time there used to be house calls. That doesn't happen anymore. The only
Mm-mm.
house call you can get is an ambulance to come and pick you up and take you. You know, so that relationship between doctor and patient has changed, has diminished almost,
Right.
right? So it's like whenever I go to a medical clinic or a doctor, I feel like I'm standing in a line at a shopping center. Doot. Okay, you're done. Doot. You know, that's how they see us as patients. You know, they don't see us as, so what's the problem? How can I
Yeah.
help you? What's going on here? You know, it's like that relationship has faded away, and it's very, very sad.
It is very sad. I mean, I think it's possibly a different issue in England because our healthcare system is free. We do have private sectors, but
Mm,
mainly it's free. And mainly most of the population uses the NHS, which is the national health care
yeah.
system, and it's free. And I think the problem is underfunded. Therefore, it's super busy, and people generally they're just jumping from one thing to another, and it's like doctors and nurses are terribly overworked. And the NHS, I think, for many years has been really, let's say, relying almost on the vocational aspects of the healthcare professionals. So therefore, like really like sucking up all the energy and the time. And now I think we have a bunch of doctors and nurses that are like exhausted. Well,
Yeah.
and the pandemics obviously has a huge impact. And I think that is really affecting the relationship with patients because literally doctors and nurses have like no time. So it's becoming, so it's a shame. It's a really bad vicious cycle because they're wonderful. I do think like doctors and nurses are what I experience in England. So that they're really wonderful and, committed to care. They do generally what they do for passion because the job is terrible.
But we need we need a lot more of that in life. 100%. Now, from your success of Medico, you got you had another show called Trust Me, I'm a Comedian.
Yes. Sorry, I love thinking of my own
So
joke, basically.
was it at this point when you made this show that's when people started seeing you more as a comedian after your first show, Medico, or do they know from Medico right away that you were a comedian?
Good question. Um,
Because to go from Medico to
yeah,
Trust Me, I'm a
yeah.
comedian, it's like you want to reassure people. Yes, I'm a doctor, but I'm a comedian as well.
Uh, No, that was not the reason why I chose that title. I chose that title because I just really liked it. I thought people kept to say, "Oh, trust me, I'm a doctor. Trust me, I had just produced some mixed bills with other doctors' comics, and I called it "Trust Us, We Are Doctors," and that kept coming up because in England, I don't know if here, but in England, "Trust me, I'm a doctor" is such a common phrase, so I thought I wanted a catchy title, but I didn't want to call it just "Trust me, I'm a doctor." I thought, well, "Trust me, I'm a comedian." But in a way, I think you're right. I mean, looking back, maybe that also was the time that I was really transitioning from being recognized. From before, it was like the doctor doing comedy, and then it became like the comedian that used to be a doctor full time. Having said that, even when I started medical, I had already been a few years into the acting world, but not as a stand-up. I was doing theater, Shakespeare, plays, films, and commercial, other stuff that was just more like a serious actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in a way, maybe that kind of is like, a passage.
No, of course.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. So, have you performed like a Make It Italian elsewhere before you came here?
Yeah. So I started last year, and I did a few previews, and then I went to the Edinburgh Fringe as my
Edinburgh, that's
fourth
correct.
consecutive bloody Edinburgh Fringe. I say bloody because it's just so hard and tiring, but it's amazing. I love it. It's one of the best thing ever. So when there, I brought us a brand new show. I was so blessed. It went so well. It sold out the entire run. So I decided to take it further. They recommended me, check out Adelaide.
Okay.
You're going to love that.
No, because Adelaide in all of Australia, the Fringe is the biggest here in Adelaide out of all of Australia.
Beautiful.
You know?
So I brought it here. Yeah.
That's terrific, and I'm sure it's going to be a success. People are going to be talking about you for at least a year after you leave.
Thank you.
About this show. Now, you also had a web series.
Yes, I did.
My Doctor's Advice?
Yes.
Okay. What was that about exactly? This was strictly medical, or was this medical mixed with comedy?
So it was a comedy web series.
Okay.
Character comedy. So that was before my debut as a stand-up. So this is pure character comedy. And it was during the lockdown. So we had a really harsh lockdown in England, multiple lockdowns actually, and I was very respectful of the lockdown, so I wouldn't do anything apart from going to work in the hospital. So that was a bit of return for me back to the hospital work during lockdown because I couldn't really do anything else. So I literally worked something like 80, 100 hours a week during the pandemics. Also, was very much in need, and I just felt like I do have skills. Intensive care was the only thing really needed during the lockdown because, really sad times, people were extremely unwell and a lot of death. So I felt like I have those skills. So I need to offer. I can't just stay on the sofa watching the news of people dying because I have those skills. So I literally spent like my lockdown in the hospital. But then when I was there, I couldn't really do anything. So I had this idea of creating a web series, which I recorded remotely. And it was about, a doctor. I was play a doctor, but it's a character comedy. So it's very weird to explain. And then I was play a doctor in having like online consultations because we were in the lockdown. So as a web series is
was
in the lockdown.
Was it interactive? Could people call you or anything like that?
No. No audiences would call it. I would have a guest in each episode, and so we would record it. We had a script, and we were touching issues of the lockdown and make a bit of fun. And I thought that's just a way. This web series started it's not because I was bored or anything, because I was actually quite exhausted. Also, I had COVID multiple times myself, so it started as desperation, I think, because I was extremely tired. I was working so much in hospitals. I was surrounded by death, and I was really missing art, and my need of expressing art in some sort was just like really like coming out, and I realized that if I was if I was able to do something to do with art, that would be my way to feel sane.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that, in fact, I discovered this beautiful, what do you say, the beautiful meaning of art, of like, during the pandemics, people used to say, oh, medicine saves life, and people would clap for the doctors, and it absolutely well deserved. But also I felt, let's remind ourselves as a society that art is equally important.
I do, but that's so interesting you say that, because there's a show called The Studio, and it's about a man who runs like a film studio, like he's like high up in the movie business, and he's dating a doctor, and the doctor mocks what he does for a living because she believes that what he does doesn't contribute to society at all, like a doctor does. And his argument is, well, if it wasn't for us, you won't get any funding to be a doctor because all the funding comes from the arts. So like they were having a debate, like which one's more important, and they couldn't realize that but he was just trying to say, I'm not more important than you are. I believe we are equally important.
I agree.
And she is saying, you are not equal to me because I save lives. Like because she's a doctor, she has that God complex about her. And so that was the debate there. So when you brought that up, that's very satisfying to hear that it is an equal thing.
Absolutely. In fact, if anything, during the lockdown, I did quite a few talk shows online, obviously, on Zoom. And I become an advocate for art. And people were like, oh, but we're clapping to you as a doctor. So like, yes, and I do appreciate that. But I want to remind everybody to clap for art. Because first of all, art is what saved me during the lockdown while I was dealing with people dying constantly. And also then I started sharing the web series with the nurses and doctors. And they had this, what really shocked me was, you can even imagine a shift in intensive care for 12 hours. Really overworked, really tired, seeing people dying like constantly, which is like, it was extraordinary. It was like being at a battlefield. It was like, awful and dreadful to even just remember. But then what I noticed is, if we had a break, and then during that break, we had a moment of humor and lightness, how I would feel so much better. And then I thought, isn't that interesting how humor is like, we need a humor so that it's not like, despite the tragedies, now we're going to do art and a comedy. No, it's because of the tragedies that now we need art and comedy even more to remind us that we are alive and we can keep sane. Remind us there is life somewhere, because we're not seeing the life now, but there is. And that's the beauty of art, and that's the power to remind us we are alive. So I'm so grateful. Art completely saved my mental health during the pandemic.
Speaking of mental health, you are a very interesting character. You ran a 160-mile ultra marathon across the Sahara Desert. Is this true, or are you just trying to show off here, trying to brag?
So basically, you're calling me insane.
No.
I get you.
I'm calling you an incredibly interesting individual.
Thank you.
That you ran a 160-mile run?
I did.
In the Sahara Desert.
I did. And this was actually that was the topic of the show. Trust me, I'm a comedian. I had this like narrative arc where I used this race, which I did for real, as a metaphor. And so I would divert during the show and then talk about the stuff, about be a doctor, be a woman, etc. And then I had like an end point of the show that meant to be inspirational and be about don't give up, because you never know when your finish line is, because there's an episode that happens in this race that's true, was very close to dying because I got lost.
Wow.
And then I spent like hours in the middle of the desert. The race was in the desert, alone in the cold, and the desert at night it gets really cold.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted because I already ran like a lot. Like I thought I was close to the finish line, and I was there lost, and I wanted to give up. And unfortunately, at a certain point, I realized, okay, there's no point to be here because I'm just going to die. Let's just try a random direction. So literally after hours, and I was getting already hypothermic. And then I decided, I remember I went right. And 5 minutes later, I am at the finish line.
Wow.
I mean, just because of the desert, it gets so freaking pitch
Yeah.
dark. I didn't know.
It
And the
gets very
campsite,
black.
they were asleep.
It doesn't get dark. It gets black. It's like you're
Yeah.
closing your eyes. You see nothing.
It's nothing. And
Yeah.
that became, for me, that kind of super motivational mantra that I still use when I go through difficult times. That like, don't give up, because you never know literally how close you are to the finish line.
Well, now people are going to be asking, what is she going to do next? Okay. Now, I have an interesting question I'd like to ask you. I ask this to a lot of my guests. If you could do your comedy for any time in history, and for any audience in history, which time period would you choose?
I think I would go back to the 60s. So
60s
quite
is
close
such a good...
to the suffragettes and the feminists. And I feel so much admiration for those women that had the courage to step up and fight for the right to vote, the right to speak. And I think in a way, I mean, maybe with less effort and less risking our lives, but in a way, I do think women in comedy nowadays are a little bit like the suffragettes on stage, because we are reclaiming our right to speak. And I'm so pleased to see that more and more women are stepping up, literally stepping up and standing up, doing stand-up. And I think it's empowering, it's beautiful. So yeah, I would just go back and speak with a mic.
That would be nice. Okay, we have entered what I like to call the existential part of the podcast, where I'm going to ask you some very deep thinking questions. And you being in the medical field, as intelligent as you are, I think I'll get some interesting answers from you.
I mean, that wasn't light before, by the way.
No, that's okay. If suffering didn't exist, do you think humor would too?
No, clearly not.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you need humor that would
suffering.
counter suffering.
Yeah, you need humor to counter, for suffering, but also kind of you need suffering for you. I mean, if you think about this, generally, you do stand up. What do you do stand up about? It's some kind of like, whatever happens in your life, you look at it from a different perspective. Generally, there is a discomfort. I mean, depending on the type of comedians you are, some comedians, they're very much like, oh, I'm upset about this, or I'm really suffering about this bit in my life, therefore I'm going to turn into comedy. Or I'm just really shocked about what's happening here. So maybe I'm a little bit angry and I'm going to turn into comedy. So generally the starting point for comedy is always like, this is not quite right. Because I see with my comedian eye, obviously, which is a distorted, beautiful, childlike type of way of looking at things. And then you represent it. But the starting point is like, okay, this is not quite right. What's happening in the world or what's happening here. So we'll make comedy. So yeah, suffering needs to be there to do comedy, and comedy needs to be there to help with suffering.
It's like the yin and the yang.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you believe identity is discovered or built?
Identity? What do you mean exactly with it?
Like, do you feel like you discovered yourself or did you build yourself?
Wow. I don't know. I mean, it must be both. I believe it must be both. I think because my story feels so, in a way, so clear that I wanted to be an actor when I was so little, and I never really understood what is it that made me want. So that identity, was it genetics? Was it karmic? Was it previous lives? What was happening?
I like how you said previous life.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of reincarnation.
And then 30 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Now I'm gonna go back to what I wanted to do when I was 5 and I couldn't even read. But I also built up that, the path to do what I wanted to do when I was 5. So I believe I had that in me when I was born somewhere from God knows where, but I built it. That's why. So it must be both the answer.
Okay. And the final question, the existential department. What are you still trying to heal inside yourself?
I think potentially as any performer, I think we have this need to express ourselves. I think every single human being has got the need to express themselves,
Absolutely.
but performers particularly, and it's a mixture of addiction and it's just desperation. You have to. It's something you can't. When you're an artist, you realize you can't live without expressing yourself. So I don't know. It's about healing yourself, but I do have this sense that the purpose of my life is expressing and sharing with people. And I believe I had this from the very, very beginning of my life. So I don't know if it's about I'm healing something or simply I'm just allowing what it felt like, oh, this is my destiny.
Perfect answer. Now, Stefania, I want to play a game with you. It's a game that's called Wrong Answers Only.
Oh,
So I'm going to ask you a question, and you are deliberately going to give me the wrong answer.
wow. Okay.
This is a test of. I think this is very good for people who are in the arts, creative people. Good improv skills. Good timing. What answer they can come up with on the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to test that level.
So wrong answer.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you a question. Like, for example, if I said to you, "What is the color red?" Then you tell me something else that's not red. But
Ah.
I'm going to make it more interesting than that.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I look forward to it.
Okay. So, Stefania, who painted the Mona Lisa?
Well, I guess it was Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's right. It was DiCaprio.
Oh,
People
here
keep
we
saying
go.
Da Vinci,
I
but
thought
it
I was gonna get wrong.
It was DiCaprio. That's correct. What did Pavarotti do for work?
It was a plumber.
He was a
yes. You know
Pavarotti,
what?
the plumber.
Yes,
PP.
and it was like Milan. I mean, we got like the system is amazing. Nothing never leaks.
He definitely had the pants of a plumber.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. It was a loud plumber as well.
Okay. This is a bit controversial. Why did Roberto Baggio miss the penalty against Brazil in the 1994 World Cup?
He had the experience.
He did. That's why he had that serious look on his face. Okay. And finally, what was Benito Mussolini famous for?
Oh, it was such a great chef, honestly. Do you know, like the lasagne and the pasta alla matriciana? Oh, he invented it. It was wonderful. I mean, every single menu in Italy should actually give credit to
Well, he did have
Mussolini.
access to some very big ovens.
He did. That's very dark.
Okay, well, you see, like the perfect example of
dark humor. No, I love it.
But
I love it.
perfect example of suffering and humor that needs to be with it. Oh, that was fantastic. That was fun. Okay, now, Stefania, we have come to the conclusion part of our podcast where I'm going to ask you a series of 10 questions. These 10 questions were not conducted by me. They were conducted by a man named James Lipton, American writer, actor, who had a wonderful show called Inside the Actor Studio, and he will end every one of his interviews with these 10 questions. And I cannot mention James Lipton without mentioning his favorite journalist, a Frenchman named Bernard Pivot. Are you ready?
Yes.
Short answer questions. Okay. What is your favorite word?
Excitement.
Excitement. What is your least favorite word?
Boredom.
What turns you on? This is not a sexual question.
I know, yeah. I wasn't thinking that, actually.
Okay, thank God. You know what? I shouldn't have asked you that because you're Italian, but every white Australian that has been here, all right, they all think it's a sexual question.
No, I wasn't thinking, but now that you say that, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
I know it's going to sound like a cliche, but actually just performing really turns me on.
No, okay,
It's just
that's
like
great.
really exciting. Yeah.
No, that's not a cliche. What turns you off?
When people are rude.
Yeah.
I cannot stand people with bad manners.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't, honestly. Rudeness and injustice. If I see people be unfair, and then let's not get into if I see people be racist or sexist or
There's a lot more worse things going on than that things right now.
Yeah. So that's like, and I not only turned me off, but it turned me into a completely different person. Normally I'm just nice and chatting and warm, and then I become like furious and like realistic.
Oh,
Yes.
no, I felt your answer on that one. What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
There we go.
I think it's very cute because
Yeah, it is.
also
It's great.
I'm not English mother tongue, so for me, like fuck feels still very playful.
I
It doesn't feel very heavy.
I thought you were going to say affangulo.
No.
I like the Italian gesture for swearing.
Like, well, for
You know,
cool.
yeah. What sound or noise?
Oh
do
no,
you
you
love?
can't even take for serious because like if you say fuck off,
Yeah.
it sounds quite but then if it's like vaffanculo.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I don't know if she's cursing me out or she wants to date me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like flirting.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your what sound or noise do you love? Yeah, it's
I don't know why. I mean, I do even on my show.
That's good.
Just once.
Very rarely do I get sound effects. I like sound effects.
It's like I know it's not very charming, so yeah. I mean, I'm sure. But
No, that's good.
it's the
What
truth.
sound or noise do you hate?
I just hate like really loud cars noise, like construction work,
Yeah,
kind of. I mean, I know they need to work and it's fine, but I get irritated.
Okay, this is going to be a tricky question because you've had so many professions as far as I've spoken to you so far. So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ballerina.
There you that's an answer. That is an answer. What profession would you not like to do?
I don't think I could work in the office, any type of office. First of all, I mean, I'm an idiot with anything computers and technology. And I think that technology hates me because realistically, every time, but this is really weird that nothing has exploded yet. So I do think I have this kind of aura. Then if I have a computer, a phone or something next to me, sooner or later, they're going to like, boo, blackout. It's my energy. It's not that I do anything to them.
Yeah.
So they hate me. I don't know what to do. Okay. Sorry, I can't even use Excel.
A lot of us can't. That's fine. But Excel is an office thing. Yes. You know, when the computer asks you, "Are you a robot?" I think that,
Yes, sometimes I doubt it.
I think it's the computer's way of saying something nice instead of saying, "Are you over 50?" You know, because if you're over 50, I understand why you can't get this.
But to be honest, I think the computer perceives them, whatever steps are done before, I probably looked completely dumb. So they're thinking, she can't possibly be a human being with a brain.
You know what? There should be a counter question. Are you a robot? Are you a human?
Oh,
You
you
know?
just Stefania.
No, that's how it should be. Okay. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ah, wow. God, this is it. I never really thought about it.
Not many people do.
Yeah, well, yeah, no. I mean, it's like, what would I think of death, especially during the Fringe? Better not to think about. I mean, my first answer brainstorming, the moment you said that, I was imagining God sounding like a nice, beautiful opera singer. So I don't know exactly the word, but some kind of like, I don't know, welcome.
We're getting some opera in here.
Yeah,
No. You know, I would like to think what he would say to you is, I will give you 5 minutes.
Give a spot. I mean, I would like.
You're giving everybody else 55. I'm going to give you 5.
Oh my God, I was like, is it paid? Or just like, sorry, I don't do unpaid spots anymore.
Oh, well, that was fun. So, your show is sold out?
My show is sold out tonight and tomorrow, and I got one more night, the closing night on Sunday, and very few tickets left.
On Sunday. Get your tickets for this Sunday. She sold out tonight. She sold out tomorrow night. Get your tickets for Sunday. Do not miss it. If you're not Italian, I suggest you go because we need more Italians in Australia. We need more white people to become light people. I don't consider Italians white. I consider them light because, you know, they're not seen as Caucasian, if you know what I mean. You know, because of the cultural background they have. And many Italians are dark-skinned anyway. You know, especially from Sicily, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see if I don't get burnt in this
no,
country.
I
I still put the SPF though.
Yeah. So be sure to catch her show. Stefania, thank you for being here. It was
Thank
so
you. It's
fun.
been a pleasure. I really
And
appreciate
thank
it.
you, everybody, for watching this particular episode. And I hope you tune in for next week's episode. Be sure to follow me on my Instagram at Fame Film Agency and subscribe to my YouTube at Magic and Dairy. And for the love of God, start following Stefania Licari on her Instagram. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
Ciao.
I'm broke, bitch.